16. Although the dealings of the gopis with Krishna are on the platform of pure love of Godhead, such dealings are sometimes considered to be lusty. But because they are completely spiritual, Uddhava and all other dearmost devotees of the Lord desire to participate in them. This is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Lusty desires are experienced when one is concerned with his own personal sense gratification. The mood of the gopis is not like that. Their only desire is to satisfy the senses of Krishna. Among the gopis, there is not a pinch of desire for sense gratification. Their only desire is to give pleasure to Krishna, and this is why they mingle with him and enjoy with him. All the gopis said, "Dear Krishna, we carefully hold your delicate lotus feet upon our hard breasts. When you walk in the forest, your soft lotus feet are pricked by small bits of stone. We fear that this is paining you. Since you are our life and soul, our minds are very much disturbed when your lotus feet are pained." This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:31-19. One who is attracted by that ecstatic love of the gopis does not care about popular opinion or the regulative principles of Vedic life. Rather, he completely surrenders unto Krishna and renders service unto him. If one worships the Lord on the path of spontaneous love and goes to Vrindavan, he receives the shelter of Rajendra Nandana, the son of Nanda Maharaj. Purport: in all, there are 64 items listed for the rendering of service unto Krishna, and these are the regulative principles enjoined in the Shastras and given by the spiritual master. One has to serve Krishna according to these regulative principles, but if one develops spontaneous love for Krishna, as exhibited in the activities of those who live in Brajabhumi, one attains the platform of Raga Nuga Bhakti. One who has developed this spontaneous love is eligible for elevation to the platform enjoyed by the inhabitants of Brajabhumi. In Brajabhumi there is no regulative principles. There are no regulative principles set forth for Krishna's service. Rather, everything is carried out in spontaneous natural love for Krishna. There is no question of following the principles of the Vedic system. Such principles are followed within this material world, and as long as one is on the material platform, he has to execute them. However, spontaneous love of Krishna is transcendental. It may seem that the regulative principles are being violated, but the devotee is on the transcendental platform. Such service is called gunatita, or nirguna, for it is not contaminated by the three modes of material nature. In his liberated stage, the devotee is attracted by one of the five humors in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As he continues to serve the Lord in that transcendental mood, he attains a spiritual body to serve Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. Those saintly persons who represent the Upanishads are vivid examples of this. By worshipping the Lord on the path of spontaneous love, they attain the lotus feet of Rajendra Nandana, the son of Nanda Maharaj. Purport: in the Goloka Vrindavan planet, Krishna's servants are headed by Raktak and Patrak. Krishna's friends are headed by Sridhama, Subala, and others. There are also elderly gopis and the cowherd men, headed by Nanda Maharaj, Madhya, Jashoda, and others. All of these personalities are eternally engaged in the loving service of the Lord in accordance with their specific attachments for Krishna. One who wants to return home to serve the Lord directly may be attracted to Krishna as a servant, friend, father, or mother. If a person continuously serves Krishna during this life in a particular ecstasy, upon giving up the material body, he attains a suitable spiritual body to serve Krishna in terms of his particular attachment. One may serve as a servant, friend, father, or mother. In the same way, one who wants to serve Krishna in conjugal love can attain a body under the guidance of the gopis. In this connection, the most vivid example is provided by those saintly personalities known as the Shrutis, who represent the Upanishads. The Shrutis understood that without serving Krishna and following in the footsteps of the gopis, there would be no possibility of their entering the kingdom of God and serving Krishna in the mood of conjugal love. Therefore they engaged in spontaneous loving service unto Krishna and followed in the footsteps of the gopis. Text 224. Great sages conquer the mind and senses by practicing the mystic yoga system and controlling the breath. Thus engaging in mystic yoga, they see the supersoul within their hearts and ultimately enter into impersonal Brahman. But even the enemies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead attain that position simply by thinking of the Supreme Lord. However, the damsels of Vraja, the gopis, being attracted by the beauty of Krishna, simply wanted to embrace him and his arms, which are like serpents. Thus the gopis ultimately tasted the nectar of the lotus feet of the Lord. Similarly, we Upanishads can also taste the nectar of his lotus feet by following in the footsteps of the gopis. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 1087-23, spoken by the Shrutis, the personified Vedas. The word samadrisha, mentioned in the fourth line of the previous verse, means following the mood of the gopis. The word sama means the Shrutis the word sama means the Shrutis attaining a body like those of the gopis. The word Angri Padma Sudha means associating intimately with Krishna. One can attain such perfection only by spontaneous love of God. One cannot attain Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan simply by serving the Lord according to regulative principles. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, the son of Mother Yashoda, is accessible to those devotees engaged in spontaneous loving service, but he is not as easily accessible to mental speculators, to those striving for self-realization by severe austerities and penances, or to those who consider the body the same as the self. This verse from Srimad Bhagavatam 10.9.21 is spoken by Srila Shukadeva Goswami. It appears within a passage in which he glorifies Mother Yashoda and other devotees of Krishna by describing how they can subjugate him with their love. Therefore, one should accept the mood of the gopis in their service. In such a transcendental mood, one should always think of the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. After thinking of Radha and Krishna and their pastimes for a long time, and after getting completely free from material contamination, one is transferred to the spiritual world. There the devotee attains an opportunity to serve Radha and Krishna as one of the gopis. Purport: Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that the word Siddha Deha, perfected spiritual body, refers to a body beyond the material gross body composed of 5 elements and the subtle astral body composed of mind, intelligence, and false ego. In other words, one attains a completely spiritual body fit to render service to the transcendental couple Radha and Krishna. Sarvapadi Vinirmuktam Tat Pratvet Vena Nirmalam. When one is situated in this spiritual body which is beyond this gross and subtle material body, he is fit to serve Radha and Krishna. That body is called Siddha Deha. The living entity attains a particular type of gross body in accordance with his past activities and mental condition. In this life, the mental condition changes in different ways, and the same living entity gets another body in the next life according to his desires. The mind, intelligence, and false ego are always engaged in an attempt to dominate material nature. According to that subtle astral body, one attains a gross body to enjoy the objects of one's desires. According to the activities of the present body, one prepares another subtle body, and according to the subtle body, one attains another gross body. This is the process of material existence. However, when one is spiritually situated and does not desire a gross or subtle body, he attains his original spiritual body. as confirmed by the Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Tyaktva deham punarjanmanaiti mameti sorjana. One is elevated to the spiritual world by the spiritual body and is situated either in Goloka Vrindavan or another Vaikuntha planet. In the spiritual body there are no longer material desires, and one is fully satisfied by rendering service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Radha and Krishna. This is the platform of bhakti. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevana Bhaktir Uchate. When the spiritual body, mind and senses are completely purified, one can render service to the Personality of Godhead and his consort. In Vaikuntha, the consort is Lakshmi, and in Goloka Vrindavan, the consort is Srimati Radharani. In the spiritual body, free from material contamination, one can serve Radha and Krishna, Lakshmi Narayan, and Lakshmi Narayan. When one is thus spiritually situated, he no longer thinks of his own personal sense gratification. This spiritual body is called Siddha Deha, the body by which one can render transcendental service unto Radha and Krishna. The process is that of engaging the transcendental senses in loving devotional service. This verse specifically mentions Sakhi Bhave Pai Radha Krishnara Charana. Only transcendentally elevated persons in the mood of the gopis can engage in the service of the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Unless one follows in the footsteps of the gopis, he cannot attain the service of the lotus feet of Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj. If one is overcome by knowledge of the Lord's opulences, he cannot attain the Lord's lotus feet, even though he is engaged in devotional service. One can worship Lakshmi Narayan by the process of Vidhi Marg, worshipping the Lord with regular principles, according to the instructions of the Shastra and the spiritual master. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Radha Krishna, cannot be directly worshipped by this process. The dealings between Radha and Krishna and the gopis are devoid of the opulences of Lakshmi Narayan. The process of Vidhi Marg, following the regulative principles, is utilized in the worship of Lakshmi Narayan, whereas the process of spontaneous service, following in the footsteps of the gopis, who are the denizens of Vrindavan, is transcendentally more advanced. It is the process whereby Radha and Krishna are worshipped. One cannot attain this elevated position while worshipping the Lord in his opulence. Those attracted by the conjugal love between Radha and Krishna must follow in the footsteps of the gopis. Only then is it possible to enter into the Lord's service in Goloka Vrindavan and directly associate with Radha and Krishna. Text 231. The unspoken example in this connection is the goddess of fortune, who worshipped Lord Krishna in order to attain his pastimes in Vrindavan. But due to her opulent lifestyle, she could not attain the service of Krishna in Vrindavan. When Lord Sri Krishna was dancing with the gopis in the Rasa Leela, the gopis were embraced around the neck by the Lord's arms. This transcendental favor was never bestowed upon the goddess of fortune or the other consorts in the spiritual world. Nor was such a thing ever imagined by the most beautiful girls in the heavenly planets, girls whose bodily luster and aroma resemble the beauty and fragrance of lotus flowers. And what to speak of worldly women who may be very, very beautiful according to material estimation. That's from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-60. After hearing this, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Ramananda Roy, and both of them, embracing shoulder to shoulder, began to cry. The entire night was passed in this way, in ecstatic love of Godhead. In the morning they both departed to tend to their respective duties. Before departing from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ramananda Roy fell to the ground and caught the Lord's lotus feet. He then spoke submissively as follows. Sri Ramananda Roy said, "You have come here just to show me your causeless mercy. Therefore stay here for at least 10 days and purify my polluted mind. But for you there is no one who can deliver all the living entities, for you alone can deliver love of Krishna." The Lord replied, "Having heard about your good qualities, I have come here. I have come to hear about Krishna from you, and thus purify my mind. Now that I have actually seen your glories, what I heard about you is confirmed. As far as the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in a loving mood are concerned, you are the limit of knowledge. Purport: Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu found Ramananda Roy to be the best authority in transcendental knowledge of the loving affairs between Radha and Krishna. In this verse, the Lord actually states that Ramananda Roy was the limit of this knowledge. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, to say nothing of 10 days, as long as I live, I shall find it impossible to give up your company. You and I shall remain together at Jagannath Puri. We shall pass our time together in joy, talking about Krishna and his pastimes. In this way, they both departed to perform their respective duties. Then in the evening, Ramananda Roy returned to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus they met time and time again, sitting in a secluded place and jubilantly discussing devotional service by the question and answer process. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked the questions, and Sri Ramananda Roy gave the answers. In this way, they were engaged in discussion throughout the night. On one occasion, the Lord inquired, of all types of education, which is the most important? Ramananda Roy replied, no education is important other than the transcendental devotional service of Krishna. Purport: Text 245 to 257 are all questions and answers between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy. In these exchanges, there is an attempt to show the difference between material and spiritual existence. Education in Krishna consciousness is always transcendental and is the best of all forms of education. Material education aims at increasing the activities of material sense gratification. Beyond material sense gratification is another negative form of knowledge called Brahma Vidya, or impersonal transcendental knowledge. But beyond that Brahma Vidya, or knowledge of the impersonal Brahman, is knowledge of devotional service to the Supreme Lord, Vishnu. This knowledge is higher, and higher still is devotional service to Lord Krishna, which is the topmost form of education. According to Srimad Bhagavatam 4:29-49, Tat Karma Hari Tosham Yat Savidya Tan Matiryaya. Work meant for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord is the best, and education that enhances one's Krishna consciousness is the best. Also, according to Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.23-24, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishno Smaranam Padasevanam Arshanam Bandhanam Dasyam Sakyamatma Divedanam Iti Pumsarpita Vishno Bhaktishchen Navalakshana Kreta Bhagavatya Da Tanmanye Ditam Uttamam. This is a statement given by Prahlad Maharaj in answer to a question raised by his father. Prahlad Maharaj said, to hear or chant about Lord Vishnu, to remember him, to serve his lotus feet, to worship him, to offer prayers to him, to become his servant and his friend, to sacrifice everything for his service. All these are varieties of devotional service. One who is engaged in such activities is understood to be educated to the topmost perfection. Now we'll take a few reflections or questions. Yes, Prabhu?
I don't want to ask something esoteric, but it's crosses my mind that earlier when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asking, speak something more. So finally, Ramananda Roy spoke about how Radharani was not so happy because she was not exclusively with Krishna. And later on we see here, today, in today's reading, that it is said that she finds more happiness when others are with Krishna. She gets millions of times more happiness. So how do we reconcile these two?
It's circumstantial because, as I mentioned before, sometimes when Krishna wants to be with Sometimes she pushes somebody else forward, perceiving that Krishna wants to be with someone else, so she's selfless like that. Other times, she knows Krishna won't be happy unless he's with her. So then she makes arrangement to push the other one out of the way and make sure that she's there. The main point comes back to that she perceives what makes Krishna happy. It's not according to her whim or her mood. It's like, will Krishna be satisfied? And in that way she arranges. Okay. Let's see if... Yes, Nitya Tarangani. What? Bad phone. Okay, go ahead. This is the new normal? Doesn't work either.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I have my own personal reflection I want to share. When one of the purports we read how...
In one of the purports?
In one of the purports we read, bodies lead the way to create bodies. And the...
It's breaking, so we'll have to figure out something else. We sent tech support about 2 seconds ago. They should be there within 3 or 4 seconds. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. In one of the purports, Prabhupada was saying how subtle bodies lead the way to create material bodies, and material bodies lead the way to create subtle bodies. It seems like a deadlock, but later we read that the only way to come out of the deadlock is to hear the glories of Krishna. And when we are reading this Chaitanya Charitamrita, I was reflecting upon the fact that how we have Srila Prabhupada books easily available, and it provides an easy solution for the biggest problem in the universe, in the creation.
Excellent point. Thank you.
And from online, we have so far around 22 people watching. And
Hari.
And there are some reflections. One, Divyananda Das Prabhu, he was appreciating the lecture from the morning, I think, and he's asking if we can get a recording of that lecture from Mahendra Prabhu.
Yes, we can get.
Yes.
You will get.
Okay. And he's saying that the broadcast was excellent quality. So kudos to the broadcast team.
Hari.
And we have one reflection from Daniela, aka Chandrakanti Mataji. She is saying, thank you so much for this great reading. It makes big damage of the demons like desires in my heart.
Jai.
And I have some names of the devotees who joined online.
Yes.
We have Divyananda Prabhu, Daniela, Rasayana Katha Prabhu, Veena Singh, Shraddha Mataji. Yeah, that's it.
Hari. Thank you very much for the reflection and the update. Okay. Outside People's Party. Inside People's Party. Mahendra is 1 second. Go ahead. Let's see if we hear you outside.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
In one shloka, it is written that even Satyabhama, one of the queens of Sri Krishna, desires the fortunate position and excellent qualities of Srimati Radharani. All the gopis learned the art of dressing from Srimati Radharani, and even the goddess of fortune Lakshmi and the wife of Lord Shiva Parvati desire her beauty and qualities. Indeed, Arundhati, the celebrated chaste wife of Vasishtha, also wants to imitate the chastity and religious principles of Srimati Radharani. I really like this shloka and explanation. So all the feminine qualities are from Srimati Radharani, the chastity, shyness and everything else, the dressing, so beauty, everything, how Srimati Radharani is the source. And I remember one shloka from Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna says in chapter 10, shloka 34, Kirti Srivaksha Narinam Smritir Meda Dhritikshama. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness and patience. I was just, I thought connections somehow. Please, could you highlight on this, Maharaj?
What was the last part? Like comment?
Mataji.
Highlight on it? Yeah, it's very nice. Beautiful.
34, 10.34.
Just, well, first of all, noticing the relationships between Krishna's intimate devotees is endlessly fascinating. When Krishna goes to Kurukshetra for the eclipse of the sun, then the queens of Dwarka are there, and the gopis come, as do many other residents of Vrindavan, and pretty much everyone else in the universe who's anybody comes there at that time. And there's some interesting contrast between the queens of Dwarka and the gopis, in that there's some sense of transcendental rivalry there, in that, of course, we hear from the gopis when Krishna leaves Vrindavan that they say, oh, he's probably with his city women now, and he's forgotten about us. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments in that section about this tension that takes place between the queens of Dwarka and the gopis when they're there, and hearing about these other great personalities, eternal associates, who appreciate Srimati Radharani for her qualities and aspire to those qualities is part of the vilas, the enjoyment of the material world, the interaction, the variety. It's not just I should say there's part of the enjoyment is the contrast and the variety. Well, I should say is the contrast, leave the variety part off. And the other one that you quoted from Bhagavad Gita, Krishna expands himself, Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikirti Haladini Shakti Rasmat Ekmanav Api Bhuvi Purat Deha Bedam Gatautal Chaitanyakyam Prakaramarana Tadvayam Chaikyamaptam Radha Bhava Duti Subalitam Naumi Krishna Sarupam. Although he's one, he's eternally divided himself into two for his own enjoyment. And as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes in the Brahma Samhita, there's a yin and yang in everything. Even inanimate objects have this male and female side. And it all comes from Radha and Krishna. It's expanded in everything. And that's part of the vilas also, the contrast between the male and female. So there's distinctive female qualities, distinctive male qualities. And the interplay between those two, that's Radha Krishna. That goes on everywhere, and that's what's the great intrigue of the world. And so that verse indicates that distinctiveness. That's all I have to say on that matter. Anything else? Yes, Prabhu. Oh, all right. Mahendra was going, and then we'll give it to Devavrata.
I think it was in the purport to 200 verse Prabhupada quoted Bhagavad Gita, and I liked how he put it. Krishna manages the speech of a pure devotee who is dedicated in with serving him with love. And the example of Rabbananda Rai, who is saying, I'm not speaking. And that's what happens when devotee is fully surrendered. That's the distinctive feeling. That's not me. He manages the speech, the mind, the intelligence, and it's not artificial when he says, "Oh, it's not me." There's no any pride, anything. The devotee actually feels like an instrument and is very blissful.
Jai.
I was just appreciating how comprehensive Srila Prabhupada's books are. It's covering everything you can possibly imagine in Krishna consciousness, and how through the regular study of Srila Prabhupada's books, the application of Krishna consciousness becomes 0% ambiguous, because sometimes these topics which we were just reading in Ramananda Roy, when there's discussion about it, it becomes very unclear. But with this, I can see that if you just are reading Srila Prabhupada's books over and over and over again, everything becomes very clear on a very practical level as well, because everything is contained, the mood of service which is needed in order to access everything Srila Prabhupada brings out. Because I've noticed throughout this section, Prabhupada is also interspersing many warnings to protect our consciousness from deviation. And I appreciate that caution which Srila Prabhupada gives, while simultaneously making everything clear and accessible.
Thank you very much. I concur. Okay, Mukharvind, and then we're going back outside.
If you can summarize this, because I'm a little bit not able to comprehend this verses that came today reading Siddha Chitte, Siddha Dehe and Sakhi Bhave. All these verses, the word came in which I never read. I'm reading first time this, like, okay, how though I heard from other devotees this Siddha Deha, like in this directly he's saying Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami that you have to meditate on the Siddha Deha and Sakhi Bhave, all these verses. So how, and I didn't see much in the purport. Prabhupada is saying that, okay, you have to do the sadhana bhakti, supporting that.
We're getting there. I think rather than go into discussion on it now, better just keep hearing, because it all comes out. As Mahendra had said this morning, we're getting there. And as Devavrata just said too. Okay, yes please.
Hare Krishna, I was just reflecting on the verse 236, where Ramananda Rai, in his great humility, is praying to Lord Chaitanya, please purify my polluted mind. And I was reflecting, some devotees, they years ago, they were praying that please purify and protect my consciousness, and I found that very helpful, because we, speaking for myself, who's like
Yeah.
For me, who is a conditioned soul, then I engage with the lower modes, and the consciousness does have a tendency to become contaminated and polluted. Mm-hmm. So this prayer of please purify and protect my Krishna consciousness, I found it helpful. But at the same time, in saying that, prayers sometimes are not enough. We have to act on that prayer, and sometimes it's difficult to act on that prayer because of the nature of the material world. But that's also making an excuse that Maya is stronger than Krishna. So could you give some tips of how we can practically act on that prayer?
Yeah, do what you're doing now. Fly all the way from the other side of the world. Take cabs and planes and buses and make your way to Govardhan Hill, where nobody else comes except for a few parikram parties. Get yourself a little room and take a little prasad a couple times a day, and then just sit and hear in the association of devotees. kind of what you're doing now. Practically speaking, whenever I have a sense of being overwhelmed, I try to come back into the present moment and say, what can I do right this second that will be progressive? And I just keep asking myself that question. What's the next thing I can do right now that will add to my progress? Is picking that up or picking this up? Which one? Make a decision. Free will's in the very moment. So you have to go moment to moment and keep asking. And don't try to get all of it. Don't try to boil the ocean. Just try to get one thing at a time. And if you can do one thing at a time, even if it's for 2 seconds, you're staying a little ahead of Maya. It comes for us like a steamroller. So we want to keep that going. But I think you're doing a great job. You're one of the stalwarts. You come here every year. It's amazing, your tenacity for hearing and chanting. So good on you, and keep up the good work. Hari Hari. Okay, anything else? Here we go. Back to the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're at 246. We still are sitting in on a private conversation between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy. Keep that in mind. Somehow revealed scriptures means you get to sit in on people's private conversations. And when it happens to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his eternal associate, it's the most highly beneficial type of eavesdropping that you could possibly take part in. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then asked Ramananda Roy, out of all glorious activities, which is the most glorious? Ramananda Roy replied, that person who is reputed to be a devotee of Lord Krishna enjoys the utmost fame and glory. Purport, the greatest reputation of a living being, the greatest reputation a living being can have is to be a devotee of Krishna and to act in Krishna consciousness. In the material world, everyone is trying to be famous by accumulating a large bank balance or material opulence. There is a steady competition among karmis attempting to advance in a wealthy society. The whole world is turning in accordance with that competitive mood. But this kind of name and fame is temporary, for it lasts only as long as the temporary material body exists. One may become famous as a Brahmagyani, an impersonalist, or scholar, or one may become a materially opulent person. In either case, such reputations are inferior to the reputation of Krishna's devotee. In the Garuda Purana it is said, Kalau Bhagavatam Nama Durlabham Naiva Labhyate Rama Rudra Pradotkritstam Guruna Katitam Mama. In this age of Kali, the fame of one who is known as a great devotee is very rare. However, such a position is superior to that of the great demigods like Brahma and Mahadev. This is the opinion of all spiritual masters. In the Itihasa Samuchaya, in the where? Narada tells Pundarik, Janmantara Sahasreshu Yasya Sadbhudra Iddashi Dasoham Vasudevasya Sarvar Lokan Samudaret. After many, many births, when a person realizes that he is the eternal servant of Vasudeva, he can deliver all the worlds. In the Adi Purana, in a conversation between Krishna and Arjuna, it is said, Bhaktanam adagachanti muktaya shruti-bisaha. The most exalted position of liberation is given by Vedic knowledge. Everyone follows in the footsteps of the devotee. Similarly, in the Brihat Narada Purana, it is further said, Adyapi cha muni shreshta brahmadya api devata. Until now, even the great demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva did not know the influence of a devotee. The Garuda Purana similarly states, Brahmanam sahasrebhya shata yaji vishishyate. It is said that out of thousands of brahmanas, one is qualified to perform sacrifices, And out of many thousands of such qualified brahmanas, expert in sacrificial offerings, one learned brahmana may have passed beyond all Vedic knowledge. He is considered the best among all the brahmanas. And yet, out of thousands of such brahmanas who have surpassed Vedic knowledge, one person may be a Vishnu Bhakta, and he is most famous. Out of many thousands of such Vaishnavas, one who is completely fixed in the service of Lord Krishna is most famous. Indeed, a person who is completely devoted to the service of the Lord certainly returns home, back to Godhead. There is also the following statement in Srimad Bhagavatam, Shrutasya pumsam sachire shramasya navat yad jasa shrutibir iditorta tad guna nu shravanam mukunda padaravindam hridayeshu yesham. After much hard labor, a person highly learned in Vedic literature certainly becomes very famous. However, one who is always hearing and chanting the glories of the lotus feet of Mukunda within his heart is certainly superior. In the Narayana Vyuha Stava, where? It is said, Naham Brahmapi Bhuyasham Tvad Bhakti Rahito Hare Tvai Bhaktas Tukutopi Bhuyasam Janma Janmasu. I do not aspire to take birth as a Brahma, if that Brahma is not a devotee of the Lord. I shall be satisfied simply to take birth as an insect, if I am given a chance to remain in the house of a devotee. If you find an insect in your house, maybe it's somebody prayed for it. There are many similar verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, especially 3.25.38, 4.24.29, 4.31.22, 7.9.24, and 10.14.30. It was Lord Shiva who said, I do not know the truth about Krishna, but a devotee of Lord Krishna knows all the truth. Out of all the devotees of Lord Krishna, Prahlad is the greatest. Above Prahlad, the Pandavas are supposedly more advanced. Above the Pandavas are the members of the Yadu dynasty, who are even more advanced. In the Yadu dynasty, Uddhava is the furthest advanced, and above Uddhava are the damsels of Rajadam, the gopis themselves. In the Brihat Vamana Purana, Lord Brahma tells Bhrigu, Shasti Varsha Sahasrani Maya Taptam Tapah Pura Nanda Gopa Vrajastrinam Pada Renu Palabdyate. I underwent meditation and austerities for 60,000 years just to understand the dust of the lotus feet of the gopis. Still I could not understand it. To say nothing of me, even Lord Shiva, Lord Shesha, and the goddess of fortune Lakshmi could not understand it. In the Adi Purana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself says, Natata me priyatamo brahmarudrash chapartiva nacha lakshmi nachatma cha yata gopi jano mama. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the goddess of fortune, and even my own self are not as dear to me as the gopis. Of all the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the topmost. Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami are the most exalted servitors of Srimati Radharani and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Those who adhere to their service are known as Rupanuga devotees. How many devotees here are Rupanuga devotees or aspiring Rupanuga devotees? Or know somebody who's a Rupanuga devotee and you're aspiring to serve that person? Okay, that's a lot. Those who adhere to their service are known as Rupanuga devotees. In the Chaitanya Chandamrita 26, we get the following statement about Rupa Goswami. The qualities of one engaged in the service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, such as reputation, austerities, penances, and knowledge, are not to be compared to the good qualities of others. Such is the perfection of a devotee, always engaged in the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And nobody is better than Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hari Hari. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, of the many capitalists who possess great riches, who is the topmost? Ramananda Roy replied, he who is richest in love for Radha and Krishna is the greatest capitalist. Purport, everyone in this material world is attempting to acquire riches to satisfy the senses. Actually, no one cares for anything other than acquiring material possessions and maintaining them. The wealthy are generally accepted as the most important personalities in this material world. But when we compare a material man of wealth to one wealthy in devotional service to Radha and Krishna, the latter is found to be the greatest capitalist. According to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:39-2, Kim alabhyam bhagavati prasthane shri niketane tatapi tapuradajan nahi vachanti kinchana. What is difficult for the devotees of Lord Krishna, who is the shelter of the goddess of fortune? Although such devotees can obtain anything, O king, they do not desire anything. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, of all kinds of distress, what is the most painful? Sri Ramananda Roy replied, apart from separation from the devotee of Krishna, I know no unbearable unhappiness. Purport, concerning this, the Lord states in the Vedic literature, Mam anarajya dukarta katumbha sakta manasa satsanga rahito martyo vreda seva parichuta. A person who does not worship me, who is unduly attached to family, and who does not stick to devotional service must be considered a most unhappy person. Similarly, one who does not associate with Vaishnavas or who does not render service to his superior is also most unhappy person, is also a most unhappy person. There is also the following statement in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Swajivanadikam prartyam Sri Vishnur Janasangata Vichedena Shamam Chatra Na Sukham Sham Labham Mahe. Out of all kinds of desirable things experienced in the life of a living entity, association with the devotees of the Lord is the greatest. When we are separated from a devotee, even for a moment, we cannot enjoy happiness. Well, that brings us to the so-called lunch break. And every year there's some massaging of the schedule. We will, to keep pace after tomorrow's Bhagavatam class by Her Grace Anuradha Prabhu, we will start doing some sessions early in the morning. Instead of meeting upstairs at 8 o'clock, we'll meet down here and go through until the breakfast bell rings. And that way we can make up some of the deficit that we're experiencing because of my poor clock management. No, it's just we have to have time to discuss because it's really nice, but we need a little catch up. Is that sanguine news, or would you like to debate? We also, Achinta Chaitanya Prabhu pointed out that breaking at 1 o'clock and then the half an hour before now and lunch is a little bit, what's the word for it? It's disorienting, because you can't leave. You can check out, but you can never leave. And so well, lunch is at 2. So what do you want to do? Keep going? Let me look, see what the outside people's party. We should go a little longer now to make up for the 2:30 thing. So devotees aren't. Well, you have to go home anyway, right? If somebody lives nearby, we stop at 1 usually, right? And you go home and you come back at 2:30. Maybe we get a pager for those who live far away. A suggestion? Okay, from tomorrow. We'll consider it a little bit more so we're not too whimsical and made their plans for today. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Gaurnitai, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram, Shri Shri Radhesham. If you so desire, please let us always stay in the association of Vaishnavas. Please let us value this special human life we've been given by taking advantage of hearing Prabhupada's books again and again and distributing them to the masses. And as an addendum to my prayer, I just report we met this morning with the international global team from Oceania. Tonight I have to meet with the rest of the world. But we got the final scores that we distributed 40,000 sets of Srimad Bhagavatams for Bhadra Purnima this year. Hare Krishna. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please say Hari Hari. Vanchakalptaruscha kripasindhabevacha patitanam pavanivyo vaishnavivyo namana Gaur Premanande Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Vanchakalptaruscha kripasindhabevacha patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.